Good evening and welcome back to the Seasiders podcast, a Friday night preview show. I'm your host, Sam Fielding, and what a show we've got lined up for you this Friday evening. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. It definitely spreads the word about this amazing pre-match show. So do hit that and do hit the notification button if you're on there so you'll get notified and keep updated with shows going live, especially with the one tonight and also tomorrow post AFC Wimbledon. But it is Friday, the 5th of March, and we're here to talk about Blackpool's home game against the Dons. We're joined by the one and only. We can't get rid of him. It is the man, Tom Main. Tom, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good. How are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. I'm happy with Blackpool's recent form and 4 points in the last two games. So hopefully you can continue that home form and I believe make it 9 out of 9 unbeaten at home. So it'll be hopefully a good weekend for us. We've also got Sean, who's after his loan spell last week, he couldn't wait to come back, just like DJ Campbell from the Blackpool preview show. Sean, welcome back to the Seasiders podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah. I'd say it's more of a Marvin Ziegler loan appearance than a DJ Campbell, but I'll take it.
Well, it's great to have you back, and I'm sure as everyone before, I put the overlay before John mentions it. But no, great to have you back and a great insight last week, and I hope you come prepared with some interesting stats, just like last week. We were meant to have a guest this evening with us from AFC Wimbledon, but they haven't turned up yet. So if our guest does arrive, we'll get them in the show. So it's going to be a quiet introduction, and we'll get straight into things, really. Just looking at the game and Wimbledon themselves, not got a great record, Tom. I'll come to you first. 7 wins, 8 draws, 15 defeats. 29 points, sat 21st in the League One table. This is the game, really, where Blackpool should be going into it full of confidence and expected to get the 3 points.
Yeah, we need to do a professional job. It's obviously not like Charlton in terms of their form, but we go in there knowing they're on a bad run of form. They've got quite a leaky defence, and we need to go about our game plan and worry about ourselves and attack them and attack their vulnerabilities to ensure that we take advantage of their leaky defence, which I think Sean will go on to mention him, and it isn't as leaky as everyone thinks, but at the same time, we are certainly good enough to score a few goals against them.
Sean, how are you feeling? Obviously, you were watching the game on Tuesday, a good point against Crewe, which we'll come on to later in the show, but are you confident going into tomorrow's game?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as Tom mentioned, obviously, Wimbledon are quite leaky anyway, even without the chance creation stats, which I'll come on to later. Mm-hmm. But I think that we're quite capable, as Tom says, of just playing our own game, doing our own thing, and we'll have no issues, I don't think. I think we'll probably look a bit tired and fatigued, perhaps, after Crewe, the exertion that we put into that game. But at the end of the day, if we've got any aspirations of heading for the playoffs, I don't think we can really do anything other than win tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess we'll come on to a bit of the tiredness in the teams, but I guess every team, Sean, is in the same boat, really. They're playing Saturday, Tuesday. I think they're playing Saturday, Tuesday now till the end of the season, with the Doncaster Rovers game now being moved to the 4th of May, or around that time anyway, start of May. So that's going to be a huge aspect in everyone's team. But if you've got a squad like Blackpool do, Sean, where they can rotate and bring players in, against these teams like Wimbledon, who maybe don't have the biggest of squads, it should really suit us tomorrow, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Wimbledon obviously got quite a few attacking options out of the game as well. The kind of heavy reliance on Joe Pigott has sort of dragged them out of the way, even though they're still in the relegation zone. They could be a lot worse without him. I think, as you said, we could quite easily make a few changes tomorrow and still have a really, really strong side compared to Wimbledon. So again, it's just about us doing the right things and keeping ticking over and being motivated for this and not taking these lightly. But I think we've probably learned our lesson from earlier in the season not to do that.
Tom, you're nodding your head there. Do you agree with what Sean's saying there, that we went down there maybe at the wrong time, really? A team's still gelling, but we've learned a lot of lessons from that defeat down at their ground.
Yeah, apart from the last sort of 15, 20 minutes at their place, from memory, it was an absolutely abysmal performance, and with the red cards and as you say, we were in that horrible sort of form of the team not being able to play, and most of the players that are playing aren't in the team now, or very few are there, and the ones that are here are playing a lot better as well. So like Sean said, we've matured over the season, and so is Critchley. And I think we'll be able to cope with them a lot better than we would have at the start of the season.
Yeah, I'll come on to their records now. Home records, not too bad, 11 points, 3 wins, 2 draws, 8 defeats. Sean, when you look at the away record, a lot better than the home record, 18 points, 4 wins, 6 draws, 7 losses. A team that you would say are perfect to set up for an away performance on. If they can grab the early goal away, they can frustrate teams. I've seen it over the years. You'll have watched games, I would have thought, doing your research. They know how to grind out a result when they need to. And hopefully for us, Blackpool, that's not the case tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously with the different home and away forms, they've had a lot of upheaval, haven't they, with the change of the ground midway through the season as well. I think we played at Loftus Road, if I'm not mistaken, and when we went to Wimbledon. But they're one of those teams that will sit in a low block. They're quite happy to give up possession, and they sort of, if they play that low line, they're quite sort of confident in their centre halves and their defenders to sort of sweep up anything. They're really good in the air, defensively and defensively, and from the wide areas they can cause a lot of problems. I think that's where they'll try and attack us if they can get us on the break. But at the end of the day, they quite happily take a point here. I think coming to us, we've not lost at home since October, so really it's all about, the onus is on us to break them down, and I don't think they'll shift without us needing to have that extra bit of quality to break them down.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. If you're listeners, it's great to have so many in the live stream already. If you've got a thought on the game, do leave the comment in the comment section below on your preferred platform, and we'll make sure we read them out. And as soon as I say that, Cliff Smith commenting here, he says, anything less than 3 points is unthinkable, but Coach Critchley needs to guard against complacency. No points are guaranteed in this league. And Tom, this league, anyone can beat anyone. We've seen it over the years. We've seen it in any league, really, but we've just got to be on our guard. We've got to be up for the battle. We've got to match them and go beyond with fitness. And that, more importantly, I think, Tom, is the physical side of the game, because we know what they're going to bring. And if we don't match them, they're going to get from the first whistle, aren't they? And try and put pressure on Blackpool. Yeah,
I think we will see some changes, which we'll come to a bit later on in the show. But with the changes that we do make, we just need to get in their faces a little bit early doors and start running at them and make them think about their game plan a bit. If we let them settle, then we could be in for, I say, a world of trouble, but we just could be frustrated. And if they do score, like I said previously, on the counter attack, or if they get a set piece and nick a goal and we can't find a way through, then the game becomes completely different. So we'll focus on ourselves, I think, like we did at Charlton and Tuesday, and the quality should shine through.
Yeah, an interesting comment that's just come through. Again, it's great to have Coach Critchley live on the stream with us, and he's going to let us into a little bit of a secret this evening. Hamilton on the bench, releasing him against tired legs with half an hour to go in the game. So we'll see if that tactic plays off. But whilst we're on the topic of CJ, before we go back to Wimbledon and their stats, goals scored and against, Sean, just how big of a boost was seeing CJ back on the pitch on Tuesday?
Yeah, it was massive. Obviously, it's been a long time. It feels like it's been a hell of a lot longer than it probably was. But you saw that burst of pace that he's still got. It hasn't changed. Nothing's changed. And it's that extra bit of quality that you want in games that, as you say, as Coach Critchley kindly mentioned, tired legs, you get CJ Hamilton on the ball. He's going to just drive at goal, and he's got that fearlessness to just take anyone on, really. And that's that extra dimension you can need when you're getting frustrated, if the team starts to lose their patience, because potentially it is a case that we've got to be patient for that first goal to come tomorrow. And having a player like that can unlock a defence by himself is sort of, well, it's something that other teams simply don't have.
Yeah, Tom, your thoughts? It's like I said, it's in a way it feels like a bit of a signing coming back, isn't it? That I'll take Matt's comment off the screen. Sorry, it feels like like I said, he has been away for that length of time. But for someone to come back who is so important, and again, it's not just one player that makes a team. And if we're going to be successful this season or next year with him in the squad, but it's just a big boost, isn't it? That you've got someone who defenders will absolutely hate playing against, and that's the player now with these 18 games to go that can really push us forward, hopefully, towards those playoff places.
He's going to be massive in the running, and as you say, he's kind of like a new signing. He's been out a long time, and the injury he had wasn't great. But Sean's just alluded to the fact that he knocked the ball forward, and I think I was watching the match. I don't think I was watching the match, and when he had that burst of pace, I just went, that's scary. I mean, that is absolutely. When you've had Ward and Virtue there, and Ward's been decent, but Virtue isn't a right winger, and he kind of stops the play. He protects the defence a little bit more, and he has the odd burst of attack from that wing, but he's much more effective in the centre. So when you have someone like CJ come in and run at defenders and show them the pace, and there's nothing scarier than raw pace. When he just bursts through defenders, it's exciting to watch, and he's going to be massive come the running. And like you say, if we have any chance, he's got to play. So.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Tom, on this one. Tom Johnson said Medine on the bench tomorrow. Is that something that you might see? And also, I think Cliff said as well that anyone know if Medine's in the running to return? I think he also would be a big boost, wouldn't he? Just due to his character and what he brings this Blackpool side, because I think despite his goals, he does so much off the ball, doesn't he, Tom, that people probably don't realise that effort that he puts in.
Here's the difference. I mean, what Sims brings to us, and we'll touch upon the Charlton game in a minute, but what Sims brings to us, we need, because he helps us set that 4-4-2. But the difference between him and Sims would, in my opinion, is the difference between sort of playoffs and fighting sort of for those, not to say automatic, but that top six. And without Medine's sort of experience, and he brings out the best in Yates. So yeah, he's massive. I'm not sure he's going to be on the bench tomorrow. I think it might be a week or two away. We don't know. But the inside training video gave us a little insight. Didn't really kick a ball, did he? He was running. So if he hasn't kicked the ball and he has the injury he has, I don't see him playing tomorrow. But I may be wrong. I didn't expect CJ to be on the bench. So we never know. If he's on the bench again, it's going to be a massive boost.
Yeah, before we move on to the rest of the Wimbledon stats, Steve has got a comment in saying we can only get stronger with the players coming back. A win tomorrow is important to gain the ground on those above, but we can only take game by game, and I think that's correct, especially with games coming so thick and fast. Excuse me, that we need to just take it steady and go, because everyone thought we were going to beat Crewe, and we realised what a good side Crewe are, which again we'll come back to. But Sean, I'll come to you because you've been busy on the internet searching stats and everything. Just looking at, no pressure. Goals scored and goals against, really, and goal difference. You look at the difference: 31 goals scored. That's one per game on average, and then goals against 54. That's just under two goals a game against them. So, what do you think is the reason behind that? Is it just kind of lack of confidence, do you think, or do you think teams are really going to put pressure on this side, especially when they're in 21st in League One?
Well, I think since the new managers come in, they've sort of tried to adapt their style. They were very basic, direct sides, sort of your most old school League One sides towards the start of the season. But since the new managers come in, they have looked more adaptable. They're trying to play football a little bit more, but obviously it's such a big transition from one style of football to the other that you're going to get mistakes in there. And against Hull and Peterborough, the mistakes were there. They tried to play the low block against Peterborough and Hull, but either Hennigan or Nightingale have the chance. Whenever they sort of have the ball in front of them, they're quite not as patient as they should be, and one of them will end up pressing, and then they leave a gap in behind, and that's where teams have exploited them. In pretty much every goal that they conceded in those two games was the same sort of recurring theme, that they don't particularly have the patience or the discipline for the style of play that they're playing. But obviously, I looked at the expected goals stats and the expected goals against. Obviously, you mentioned that they've conceded 54 goals this season. In terms of actual expected goals against, it stands at 42, which means that they should have basically conceded 12 goals less than they have done. Now, that can be a factor of things, but basically what that means is that the chances that they've conceded over the whole piece have been a low probability of going into the net. So it's probably a 25-yard range strike, for example, something like that. Something that's quite lucky to go in as a one-off. They've been quite unfortunate to concede quite a few of those chances. But having said that, they've still got one of the weakest defences in the league, and it was clear to see why in recent games.
Yeah, quite surprisingly, when they've got Sam Walker, who will come on in our feature, which we have prepared a few names for teams who've played for both. Actually missed them off before, and I searched him, and I was like, oh, that's him. But yeah, he looked such a good goalkeeper. But I guess you can only be as good as what's in front of you, because if you're lacking confidence, you're not winning your tackles, you're not winning the ball in the air and letting things drop, that the goalkeeper should save them. But 9 out of 10 times, you think the striker should at least put the ball in the back of the net. So will it help Blackpool players, Tom, knowing that he's in goal, potentially in goal tomorrow, that if he does start, because one, they've trained with him, they've worked with him for 2-3 weeks. Do you think that might have a bit of an impact in how Blackpool and maybe he goes about the game as well, from his perspective?
I think if anything, it might not spur him on as such, but he'll have a bit of inside knowledge to the style of football Critchley wants to play, and I don't think it would change the way we play as such. I think we'll go about our game regardless of who's in goal, and I think he will understand us a little bit more, so he'll give them a bit of advice on it. And he was a decent goalie for us, but he also played in 2 games where we were absolutely abysmal at the back, and we let them sort of have the have loads of efforts at goal, and he saved 2 penalties, and he was a good shot stopper, but we didn't help him over the games he played, in my opinion. And if we continue to put pressure on, he will concede like Blackpool did. So I think we'll create more chances than we did in the previous games, or the teams that he played for us against, if that makes sense. So we'll make a lot of chances tomorrow. So like I said, if we get focused on our job and we run at them, and we actually create a lot of chances tomorrow, I don't think it'll be an issue.
Fingers crossed we can actually put the ball on the back of the net and take our chances like we did away at Wigan. Obviously, we're meant to have a guest on this evening, so I'll put these questions to you guys. You've had a look on the form that we do pre-match, but looking at their players, Sean, to really watch out, and I think Joe Piggott's one that you've mentioned before, 15 goals in 29 games this season in all competitions, 13 in the league. He's the one player that Critchley and I guess the back four just need to be wary of tomorrow, don't they?
Yeah, he causes problems in the away leg. And I think generally we've sort of struggled if we've come up against 2 target men. But I think when it's 4-2-3-1, the formation that they're playing, and it's just the one, I think that we deal with them quite well. And it's important for Wimbledon that they get the likes of Ryan Longman in and around him. He's a good player out wide. He's only 20, and he's been the sort of catalyst alongside Ryan McLaughlin that have really sort of brought their strikers into play and sort of got the ball forward into the right areas. And I think if we can cut off those initial supply lines, we won't have to worry about Piggott, because he's going to hold the ball up and no one's going to be there for him anyway. So it's almost cutting off the pass before it gets to Piggott that will be the way we stop him.
Tom, he's only not scored in his last 4 games. Shrewsbury, Hull, Gillingham, Peterborough. Scored 2 vital goals against Wigan back on the 6th of Feb in a 3-2 victory after going 2-2, scoring late on in that game. So he's not in fine goal scoring form, should we say, but he's just that aerial threat that if he does get that one chance, and as I said earlier, we have to be in our game, don't we, throughout the 90 minutes to just prevent him from getting a shot or goal, because in football it just takes 1 second or one magic moment and the game can be we'll be losing the game potentially and having to fight back to score 2 goals.
He's spot on. I think Sean alluded to the fact that why he hasn't scored, because he's not essentially being made enough chances in and around him to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think a player like that, he's an incredible goal scorer, and he scored goal. His career's shown that he scored goals wherever he plays. So, like Sean said, it's how we play our game tomorrow to stop them coming in. Stop them playing the ball to him to give him the chances to score. So he will score if he gets an opportunity. That's good enough. There's no doubt about that. But if we're on our game, and we generally are, in terms of stopping teams play their game, we've seen it at home. I know Hull scored a couple of goals. I mean, one was from a set piece, and Pompey didn't have a shot. I had 1 shot on target all game with Marquise, and we stopped teams like that from having shots and scoring. So there's no doubt in my mind tomorrow, if we're up for it, then we will stop them creating them chances for Piggott to get in and score.
Yeah, I was kind of going to follow up there, but you've kind of answered my questions in there. But who else would you say, Sean, that's players to watch out for them? I'm looking at the stats on the screen next to me, and there's not really anyone that stands out. But you look at Hennigan, who's at the back, people are saying get CJ on him. He's not as quick. He makes Thornley look absolutely like Usain Bolt. I think it was Cliff said in there as well. But when you actually look at the team, that there isn't anyone really that stands out. You look at Charlton, you think Chuck Zanike is going to cause us problems. You've got Darren Prattley, who is experienced enough to run midfield. But in this Wimbledon squad, and no disrespect, there didn't seem to be anyone that can really grab the game by kind of the scruff of the neck and take it to Blackpool. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, there isn't really. And I think the one player that they've had a lot of hope for is Ethan Chislett, but he's missing tomorrow's game. He's been in the hole behind Joe Pigott and been one of the players, again, that sort of gets in and around him in the right areas to be able to produce the chances. So the big miss for him missing the game in the hole. I think, as you say, they're just passive and they're slow and they're just a bog standard what you expect of a lower league side. If you ask someone the stereotype of a League One side, that's what Wimbledon are. And I just think that, as Tom says, if we play our game, I think the tempo and sort of the fitness of our side and the energy that we have in midfield and in and around the attack, I just think the game should be out of sight from them before they really get the chance to do anything about it. But we can't go into the game with that sort of attitude. We still need to play the game like we did at Charlton, very professionally, and get in and about it and do the job well and get it done and sorted before half time.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as many people said in the chat, that first goal is all important. If we can get that one, I'm sure they'll just lack in a little bit of confidence, and hopefully we can grab a few more goals. But just before we move on to the next subject, I've been asked to share this from the Up the Mighty Pool, who if you've not listened or followed their channels, definitely follow them on social media. They're great at doing some fantastic interviews with former players like ourselves. So I'm sure we wish them all the best with their journey in terms of that. But they've asked me to share this. They've teamed up with footballtown.com, and Blackpool fans, if they want this shirt, which I'll try and go in zoom in a little bit in a second, but Blackpool fans can get 10% off this retro kit when you use the discount code UTMP at checkout, retailing at £44, but limited stock available. I'll briefly try and get on the screen here if you can see some of the shirts, but it looks, in Tom, as we were saying just before we came on air, it looks a smart piece of kit, that, doesn't it? And I think your wallet might take a little bit of a hammering this weekend, might it?
I think I might grab one. Yeah, I'm about to put an order in for one, and that is quite genuine. I like a retro style shirt, and that's a quality bit of kit. That.
Yeah, sure. What are your thoughts? Again, it's got the tower on it, obviously different to the current badge that's on there, but it looks, like I said, I feel like I'm working in next to one of those stores. But it looks like a good material, doesn't it? I'm sure. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it just looks a nice kit, doesn't it? I'm going to say that.
Yeah, it looks clean and
don't
fresh.
Get me selling things.
I know. I'm one of them that buys a million random football shirts, so no doubt I'll be the same as Tom. Ended up buying that. I think I bought like a second division Italian top last week, so I'll be right on that.
Right, we'll move on there because I'm getting a bit flustered talking about the cotton material on the shirts. But a nice plug there. If you want to follow the Up the Mighty Pool social media pages, do head over to their channel and place your order if you want them. There is limited stock, so be aware and don't be disappointed at all I'll say. But we'll talk about a bit about Blackpool now. Obviously, plenty of Blackpool fans in here, and we've not got our guests, which we thought we would do. Let's talk about the last two games, which we've obviously picked up 4 points from. 3 points away at Charlton, a 3-0 victory, Yates with 2 goals and Matty Virtue. Tom, before we actually came to, well, I don't want to brag about it, but but 4 points from those two games. I think if you switched it round and got a point away at Charlton and a win against Crewe, I think people would have been happy with that. But I think they're a bit disappointed that we've gone away to Charlton, picked up 3 points in a fantastic performance, but then drew against a side where maybe they thought they would have won. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think 4 points is really good for us, especially extending that unbeaten home run.
Yeah, first and foremost, 4 points from those two matches is brilliant. I think any less than 3, we would have been absolutely kicking ourselves. But not to disagree with you as such, but the way I think about it is we should have beat Charlton. They were abysmal, and their home form was was utter garbage. And I think when we played them, that was one of the teams this season where I was really shocked at the performance they put in. They seemed to didn't want to care for Lee Bowyer and play for the shirt, and we were brilliant, and the early goals helped, or the first half goals helped. And then we played Crewe, who are a team I'm a bit wary about. I knew a few of their players, and as soon as the game kicked off and you started getting into the game we discussed just before the show started, they were fantastic. And to come away with a draw from that match, I would have been disappointed if we lost, but I wouldn't have been surprised after watching the match. And like you say, 4 points going into Saturday, we win that, and that's 10 from 12. And again, that's playoff form, and we can't win every match. And the fact we didn't lose that match with the pressure they put on us is key. And I'm really ecstatic at the fact we drew on Tuesday, and because of the way the Crew played, and they made us work for it. And the game was brilliant. So I went away Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I thought, what a great point. And I haven't changed my mind since. And usually after a draw, I'm a bit peed off, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. The game was really decent, and I can't wait to see what we do tomorrow to a lower sort of opposition.
Yeah, Sean, I'll come to you and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, obviously, I saw Steve in the comment there said 4 points is a good return, providing we win tomorrow. I think that's important to point out as well, because obviously it's all well and good putting in top draw performances against teams that are higher up there, but if we don't capitalise and do the basics right against a side like Wimbledon, then it's kind of all for nothing. It was pointless as putting in that energy against Crewe. But I think Crewe, as Tom said, I think Crewe are easily the best side we're going to play this season. It's the toughest test we've had this season in terms of the way that both of our teams match up. The intensity in that game was pretty ridiculous. Both teams were running each other ragged in the midfield. There was real quality on show from both sides. And I think, obviously, a lot of Blackpool fans were really disappointed with a few performances and things like that. I think we did tire probably the last 20 minutes or so. But I was quite impressed with how we matched up to it. I think that's a game a couple of months ago that we would have lost convincingly, because it's all about keeping ourselves in those sort of games. It's very easy to let one of those games get away from you if you're not up to it. And we were on it, and it was simply a case of individual mistakes towards the end as we were starting to tire and fatigue that cost us the 3 points. But as Tom says, a draw was definitely a fair result. But I think that feasibly, as we say, if we play the same way with the same intensity and the same energy as we did against Crewe, then we're going to walk over a team like Wimbledon. It's how it's going to be.
Tom, do you agree that we've got to start with that intensity and really put Wimbledon on the back foot from the first whistle, don't we?
Yeah, I was going to bring a comment from Wright. Sorry if we've just shown it. I was off screen, but he said Crewe were good, but I'll admit, but we let them do what they wanted throughout as a large part of the game. Maybe if we played like we did against Charlton, the game may have been a different story entirely. I disagree with that, just on the basis of Charlton were really poor. They didn't pressure us. They didn't close us down. You saw by Virtue's goal, he was allowed to run at them and have a shot. Crewe didn't allow that. And even I made a comment to Sean about Thornley's pass went before they nearly scored, and Sean just sort of put me right and said it wasn't the fact they didn't close Thornley down, it's the fact they closed every single pass down on the pitch, and we wouldn't have seen that on the stream. So Charlton did such a good job at making sure we couldn't play our game, and we had to sort of counteract with that, and I think we did that really well. So sorry to answer your questions, I don't think Wimbledon will be that intelligent, and I also think that if we play the same way we did against Crewe, and we're allowed to do it, which they won't do as good a job as Crewe's doing, maybe I'll become a meme in about 12 hours, 13 hours time, but I don't see us being any different. I don't see us losing tomorrow's match. I can't see it.
This is where we look back in 24 hours time and say, what on earth are we on about on Friday night? It can be a completely different game if we don't turn up and all that stuff. But again, we've got to take that into consideration, that our recent performances and how we've been playing, especially at home, 8 unbeaten now, which is fantastic. But if we move on to Wimbledon, obviously we're not as informed as our guests would have been, which is a shame they can't be with us. But you look at their last 2 results, most recently a 1-1 draw away at Shrewsbury, which we know is no mean place to go. It's a really tough environment and ground to go and get any points from there. And they've done well to nick a late equaliser. Assel in the 84th minute. But that just shows that result, Sean, that they can actually go to a place, a team in form like Shrewsbury, and go and get a point. And I think as Blackpool fans, we have to be aware that they do have those kind of threats, and they do have these games where they can pick up points where they're not expected to.
Yeah, obviously, as I said, since the new manager's been made a permanent appointment, I think he was an interim manager and then he's become permanent later down the line. I think they've shown that they do have quality in moments, as we've mentioned before. Joe Pigott can do it when he's got the opportunity. I think the thing that I take confidence from is the teams that even under the new manager, the teams they've lost to are teams that have that energy and intensity in their attack and they can mix it up. And I think Shrewsbury are quite one-dimensional. It's really effective at the moment. Under Steve Cottrell, but they don't create that many chances and they're just simply taking pretty much every chance that comes at the moment. Same to a side like Gillingham, who they beat recently as well, quite one-dimensional but effective at what they do. They don't really have an option to mix it up. I think against teams that have that extra quality in the side and that are up at the top of the table, they've still been run over. And I think that comes down to the lack of discipline in the back line and sort of I think a lot of teams down the bottom are similar in that way. We're going to do it quite a few times where they'll set up really structured and disciplined, and then they'll concede the first goal, and they'll want to almost make up for that by being more aggressive and being more sort of, I guess, undisciplined in terms of how they're coming out from the back and how they're trying to press teams in the defence. And that's how you just make more mistakes. And I just don't think they have the quality to think about that and to sort of cool themselves down and keep composed once they concede.
Yeah, I'm just trying to load the kind of results up. And like I said, goals against, like conceded 1, conceded 3 against Hull in the previous game at home. Hull obviously a side looking to push on, and again scored an early penalty, 24th minute, one just before half time, which any game it really kills it off, and then a penalty midway through the second half. So again, I personally, I think the first goal, Tom, is so important tomorrow because, like I said, if we don't get that first goal and we're panicking and fans are in the ground, so it probably helps, but we're getting frustrated and the players are getting frustrated. It's just, I just hope we win it. More than anything, I just hope we can start positive, because if we don't, I can really see us losing 2-1 or 2-0, because I've seen Wimbledon play against Fleetwood a number of times. I can think, we're going to go there full of confidence. Sorry, I said we then, didn't I? Go there full of confidence, and then at the end of the day, you don't pick up the result, and everyone goes home a little bit frustrated. So we've just got to be on our game, haven't we? Full thing tomorrow from the first whistle.
It sounds really stupid, but we have got the ability to lose tomorrow. It's a football match, but I think Dan said earlier in the chat, if we get an early goal and we play our football, and like I said, we worry about ourselves. I keep saying that because there's been times where he's changed the system to try and compensate for a decent side, whereas we've shown in the past if we just stick to 4-4-2 and we utilise our decent players, we won't have much to worry about tomorrow. I'm not saying we're the best team in the world, but we certainly need to, like you say, settle ourselves down. Like Dan said, if we get a goal in the first 20 minutes, maybe another one before half time, like we did against Charlton, then we really won't have anything to worry about. Like you say, if we don't attack them and show them that intensity and they do nick a goal just before half time, we go in 1-0 down, then we've got to try and work them out. It's up to us to take the game to them. And, we haven't done that this season, but we haven't been in a position where we've conceded a lot of goals this year, apart from the odd game. And that's why I think tomorrow, if we do play that sort of a similar defence and we don't make wholesale changes at the back, I think every time we've played at home, we've looked relatively comfortable at the back if we're switched on. So again, that's why I don't think tomorrow we'll have that issue as such. But you're right, we have to be switched on and we have to get 3 points.
Sean, talking about players who have come into the side after being probably left out quite, well, I guess unfairly in terms of not given a chance, but Thornley's come in and I think surprised many people in terms of his performances and what he brings Blackpool, really. I think a bit of stability, someone who could bring the ball out and something like that. But some people calling for James Husband to come back in the side. But just want to hear your thoughts on Thornley's performances recently, and do you think he should be starting tomorrow against Wimbledon?
Yeah, I think generally he's looked quite solid. He's not had as much of a test as he did against Crewe. Obviously, that was another level. I think it was perhaps a step too far for him. But I think the problems against Crewe, I came out not wanting to criticise him and then just completely going at him. But I didn't mean to. But it was like it was a case of Crewe really spotted early on that Jordan Thornley does not like it when, not particularly he gets pressed when he's got the ball at the back, but when all of the options to pass to are cut off for him so that he's not able to make a pass, and then he has to come out with the ball himself. I think he's uncomfortable with doing that. He's got a really good passing range on him, but if you cut out the passes for him to make, he struggles. And then obviously, as a couple of people have alluded to, the ball over the top with Thornley. So it was about the first half an hour, because obviously Cliff's mentioned there about that was not coming out of the traps. I think it was a case that we were stuck between two systems, really, because Crewe had a lot of the ball in midfield and a lot of space in midfield. And we could have either dropped in as a low block and sort of stopped them being able to play through us then at that point, but that would have stopped our attacking outlets ourselves. Or we could play the higher line and squeeze the midfield and the gaps in between. So Anthony Evans and Ryan Wintle couldn't really have the space and time on the ball. But there was always that sort of worry that the ball over the top would then catch us out. And eventually it did. We played the offside trap really, really well after we made that change on the half-hour mark, and we were really in control of the game. But as we started to tire the last 20 minutes, Thornley started to get a bit unsure about himself, and he tended to drop an extra yard or two. And I don't think it's particularly that it's tiredness or anything like that. I think I think he does get a bit of a lack of confidence, but who can blame him? He's not played that many games this season, and you go into play to your own strengths. When you start to get fatigued in a game, you're going to start going back to the basics and what you think works best for you. But if you don't stay in line with a high line and try and play an offside trap, it's bound to catch us out. And it did with the goal, because obviously he played the striker level and Ballard then had to come back and recover for him. But I think he'll be absolutely fine against Wimbledon. And I think he'll be absolutely fine against most teams, because they're not going to have the intensity that Crewe had on the ball.
Yeah, sorry, Tom, you obviously again nodding your head there. I agree. Just read a few comments out. That one was on the screen before, that James Husband's another player who doesn't really deal with the balls over the top. He might get stuck under the ball a few times. He's not got that pace to get away. And Josh has also said, I've always liked Thornley, but distribution was concerning versus Crewe, but very good defensively. And you've got to think, yes, the amount of games he's played, but he was called in last minute against Charlton. Again, a clean sheet. So you've got to actually think he's come in and done a really good job. And I think having that left-footed centre-half in there, Husband's not a centre-half. He's a left-back, and fair play to him for playing a different position, because it's never easy. Angles and everything are so different. But I've been quite impressed with him. I don't know what your views are on Thornley this season.
There's a few things to take into consideration, but on the whole, he's been terrific. Look at the run we've gone on since he's been in. Regardless of who you are, and yes, you're a professional footballer, but he didn't know he was playing at 2:45, 10-3 against Charlton. Maybe he did know before, but I'm speaking when we found out. But he came in and done an incredible job. And I just want to touch upon what Sean said. When he had the ability to pass the ball against Charlton, he found Ward with a 40, 50-yard pass 3 times. He made 2 or 3 cracking passes from centre-back in terms of spraying it to the wingers. And he played decent football from the back in terms of just passing it into the centre of midfield against Charlton. He's done nothing wrong, really. And like you said, maybe Crewe's level was too much for him, but that's a learning curve for him. And we've seen with Marv's this season that at the start of the season, I wondered why he was still playing. Now he's had quite an injury. We miss him. We miss him massively. So Thornley for me can start tomorrow, and I'll have no issues. And he's done a cracking job.
Yeah, I've just put this comment in the section. Who do you think Blackpool's best centre-half pairing is? Just a quick one. If people are interested, it's a good topic, to be fair. Gareth says, I think Ballard and Thornley are doing just fine if he's been honest about it, which, again, Gareth, great to have your opinion on here. Righty 2211 says Ballard and Marvin as their best centre-halves. Richard, sorry, one more, Tom. Richard said Ekpiteta and Turton. I'm guessing he's taken. I don't know if he's been serious. If you are being serious, great to get your comment in. But obviously, I think Turton's more of a right back, isn't he, compared to a centre half? Sorry, Tom.
That's all right. I stopped myself speaking twice there. I do apologise. For me, do you know who I really enjoyed watching? It was Gretason and Marv's. Those two together are unreal. We played against Fleetwood and a few other teams, and they were fantastic. And Gretterson, I can't wait for him to come back. Although, who do you drop to sort of come in for him? But he'll start over Thornley and Husband at centre back, won't he? And we didn't really see Ballard and Gretterson together just due to injuries and rotation. And Marv's doing such a good job. But I think based on consistency of who's played, it's got to be Ballard and Marv's, just because they're both incredible centre backs. And I think without Ballard this season, we'd probably be a lot lower than we are, and he's only played a few games, but he is one hell of a player. And to be honest with you, he's much better than Arsenal's defence at the moment. So we've got an absolute quality centre back in our ranks. And for me, if he's fit, he starts most games. He has to start every game. So
it's quite interesting, Sean, just seeing all the comments come through. I think you can read them as well. That loads of people saying Ekpiteta and Ballard, they seem to work really well together. But I think it's a credit to the other players that when they have been called upon, whether it's been Gretterson, Thornley, Husband, who's maybe played in there. I think Turton has played at centre half a few games, to be fair. But it shows that the team can be versatile, doesn't it? And that's a good sign if a team's going to be pushing at the right end of the table, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's as Tom said, it's Marvin Ekpiteta and Daniel Gretterson are the strongest centre-half pairing for me. I think because they play off each other so well, although I think Daniel Ballard's potentially the best centre-half we've got at the club, when it comes to a partnership and how they play off each other, I think it's those two that have really gelled really quickly when they play together, and it worked really well. Whereas I think Ballard has more confidence in his ability to kind of take the extra risk, whereas then if he's playing with another partner, they perhaps drop a little bit deeper and it kind of gets a tiny bit disjointed at the back sometimes, as obviously we saw against Crewe. Whereas if you've got the two that are just on such a level understanding that they know each other so well and they work, I think with the Husband and Thornley thing, I think that Husband's learnt his lesson from earlier in the season. I think he reads the game, as Matt said, better than Thornley does it. But I think that, again, Thornley's not had that run of games to be able to learn himself. I think play him against Wimbledon, because it'll be important to see how he reacts after that Crewe performance. And it's the perfect game for him to react and bounce back to. There'd be absolutely no good hit dropping him because his confidence will be shot. And then you bring him in against a stronger opposition. You play him against Wimbledon, and it's the perfect chance to bring him back in and have him full of confidence again.
Well, Coach Critchley's got a few players to pick from. Hopefully he picks the right two pairing to go against what's going to be a physical battle, I'm sure, in the Blackpool box throughout the game. Hopefully we can keep them away from our 18-yard box and not give them a sniff, really. But just something that I saw today before we move on to what managers have said. Really interesting. I'm going to put it on the screen. I don't know if anyone was there. Probably not you, Tom, but Sean, I don't know if you were at this game. I think it was 2 years ago today. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but I'll play it. Limbs. That's what I'm going to say. Limbs. Absolutely fantastic scenes there, wasn't it? In terms of the occasion, the raw emotion of fans on that, I guess, wasn't an easy ride or a few years for fans, was it?
Well, no, that game was, I think I just about got your question there, Sam. That game was, it was special, and I remember before the game, everyone was crowded around the gazebo area. They had a musician on and stuff, and it was absolutely jam-packed, and I just think that it was so tough for us for so long, and it was what I worried about going back was I going to get that instant affinity and connection with what we were doing after so long away, and it just came straight away naturally when Jay Spearing scored that penalty. It was like he'd never been away. I think that was really the moment for everyone where they went, right, we are really back here, and it does mean something still.
Yeah, definitely. I can apologies if my thing isn't as smooth as it used to be. I'm not sure what the internet reasons are, but hopefully I can get that sorted. It doesn't seem to be lagging my end. So just a little bit of heads up there for those. If not, I'm sure Tom can step into my shoes after his new show and his performance hosting that, which we will come on to very shortly. But like I said, a fantastic occasion for all Blackpool fans. I just thought I had to share that with everyone. moving on to managers and what they've had to say. We'll start off with Coach Critchley. He said, we'll just read down here actually. Everything around the first few games, the first few weeks of the season seemed to be getting punished with decisions and look going against us. I think after that, the defeat away at AFC Wimbledon, we found a lot about ourselves and each other. Myself and the coaching staff found out a lot about them, and the players found out a lot about us. We've become stronger as a group because of that, and I really heartened by what I saw from the players and their response. Despite playing with 9 men for a good degree of the match, we matched them for large parts, and that told me what type of characters we have in this dressing room. Tom, your thoughts on what Neil Critchley said in his pre-match notes?
I think I'm going to get this tattooed on my somewhere on my body, but he speaks so well, and he's just summed it up really well. I think the game against Wimbledon, I came on the pod afterwards, and I didn't really have much words. CJ should have scored at the end, and we did have a few chances where we should have scored, but we definitely didn't deserve to win or draw that match just based on where we were at the time. And where we were at the time was a mess, really. I think we were defensively poor, and we didn't have any creativity in midfield, and we just didn't have any sort of identity going forward. And yeah, we've come on leaps and bounds. I still remember the shows that we were doing on Friday nights where I was saying if this continues, Critchley needs to go, and I'll continue to eat my words since Calderwood and him have come in together. We've been a completely different kettle of fish, and we've signed pretty decently, and we've got some incredible characters on our team. You mentioned earlier, if we go 1-0 down, we might be in trouble. I think I feel the opposite. I think we'll always get something in the match where we have that moment of, or that spell of possession where we're going to create something, and Critchley's just summed that up. We've got some real big characters on our team now, and that's coming through more and more each game we play. Someone like Stewart, for example, is signed, not played for 8 months, and you can see what kind of character he is. Dougal's dropped, and he sort of takes, as you mentioned earlier, the game by the scruff of the neck, and he drags us through matches, and he makes us start ticking over. So we've got enough players on that pitch to do a decent job this season, and especially pick up 3 points tomorrow.
Sean, your thoughts to the comments there by head coach?
Yeah, as Matt says there, we're just stuck with him, Tom. Tom was saying it and I was writing it at the time. I think we'd kind of started to lose confidence at that point that nothing was going to turn around. As much as we were kind of seeing those bright sparks and shoots, it just wasn't happening. But then I think the moment that changed my perception of it was when they released the data to the Gazette, and they were saying that we expected goals, we should have been 7th in the league, and looking at the chance creation stats, it was sort of this bizarre moment where we won that 7 or 8 games in a row, and we weren't creating as many chances as we did when we'd lost all those games. It was just that we were being more clinical with it. And I think it also speaks volumes of the sort of structure and the network that's building at the club in terms of scouting, because and the transfers as well, because we saw the problems that we had at centre half, and we very quickly went out and astutely identified Daniel Grierson from absolutely nowhere. No one had ever heard of him before. It's just not the sort of signing that a League One club makes. We went out and got him, and we did the same with Dan Ballard. And it's every single sort of issue we've had. We've had that issue of having someone that can control the game in the midfield. So we brought in Kenny Dougal. We did it again where we needed that extra body that is able to do that on the pitch. And we've done it with Kevin Stewart. So every single time that we've had a question that's been posed about this squad and what we need, it's been very quickly identified. And I think that speaks volumes to the whole structure of the club. And having Critchley at the helm, being able to bring that style of play, it's the perfect recipe for me longer term for us to make a real success of it.
Fingers crossed we can carry on. But their manager, Mark Robinson, hasn't spoken to the media, but their first team coach did, Rob Turvey. He says, our focus is to come in and be the best versions of us each day. I think he's referring to him and the new manager taking the job. They were interim manager in January. But he said on the other night against Shrewsbury, I think it was 2 points dropped. We want to get 3 points in every game. We're not setting up to get draws somewhere, and that's been the same for every game since we took charge. We believe in what we're doing, and we believe we're good enough to go there and get 3 points at any place in this league. And tomorrow, that is our aim. So, Tom, it's fighting talk from a team who really need to push themselves away from the bottom 4.
I wouldn't expect the manager to say, I'm not confident. But they will have the belief that they can go into most games and do it. But like I said, if they are relatively one-dimensional, they've got a couple of individuals that can create chances, but we just need to be on top of our game to stop them doing any of that. And like you say, have any sniff it inside or outside of the box. And hopefully by the time they get a key chance that we've scored one or two, because we've got the quality to do it, and we can sort of just have that calmness about us that we have had at home.
Definitely. We just put a question in every chat group on the YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. If you got your starting or preferred starting 11, do let us know in the comments section. We'll read through all of them if we've got time. And then we're going to go on to talk about players who have played for both clubs. And we've got 3. See if you can match them or even go 1 or 2 further. But your team selections and then score predictions we'll do at the end of the show. But Tom, I'll come to you first before we read some of the comments out and then follow up with Sean's. Who would you like to see start tomorrow? Is it 4-4-2, 4-3-3 for you?
Never, my formation. Yeah, 4-4-2. I really just touch upon what Sean said earlier. I would like to see Ballard and Husband, but I think the right decision is to play Thornley, because Sean's right. He needs to react to it, and he needs, hopefully another clean sheet under his belt to say, yeah, I can do it. And it was just an off game. So same back 4. I would like to see Mitchell start a game, and he's better effective on the left. So Mitchell for me to start, and then Dougal and Virtue, because I think Stewart needs a rest. He was on his arse. And if he can come on the bench, why can't he start? So for me, CJ starts on the right, because I think we need him. If he can play 45 minutes to 60 minutes, then you start him, and then don't play him for 45 minutes or half an hour at the end. For me, there's no different. If he can start, he can start. And then Sims and Yates up front still. So my changes would be Hamilton for Ward and Mitchell for Kai.
Interesting. We'll go through Steve. And Dougal as well. Steve got his comment. His is gone for a 4-4-2 formation. Maxwell in goal, Gabriel, Garbett, Ballard and Husband in the back. Dougal, Virtue, Kai, and CJ in the midfield. And then Yates and Sims up top. We'll read Gary's comments out later on. I've lost loads of the comments now. Gareth, he says Maxwell, Gabriel, Ballard, Thornley, Garbett. That's the back 5. Including the goalkeeper, Ward, Virtue, Dougal, Kai, Sims, and Yates. I'll come to you, Sean, next. Who would you like to see in the starting 11 to face Wimbledon tomorrow?
Yeah, I think from the Crew game, watching the last sort of 10, 15 minutes, there was 3 players that really stood out as being sort of on their last legs and in need of a rest. I think that was Grant Ward, Kevin Stewart, and potentially Jordan Gabriel as well. They'd worked so hard in that game that I think ideally you would want to rest them, but obviously you don't want to make too many changes and sort of lose the flow of the team. So I would bring in CJ Hamilton on the right. I think, as you said, he's on the bench, then he's fit to start as far as I'm concerned. And this isn't as much of an intense game. You're going to have times where you can cool off, I think, in this game, sort of just recycle possession for a bit and catch your breath and then go again. So it's a good game for him to come back in. I think potentially that you might play Turton at right back instead of Gabriel if he wants to change that around, because it's not going to make an impact, I don't think. I think if you play CJ Hamilton, you don't need Gabriel down the wing as much, especially against a side like Wimbledon, because we're going to have to break them down through the middle. It's not particularly about the wide areas, because they'll probably be able to sweep up balls in the box anyway. And then Dougal in for Stewart, as Tom mentioned.
Yeah, Steve's even mentioned his bench, to be fair. So credit to Steve. He's got more Thornley, Turton, Stewart, Ward, Mitchell, and possibly Madine. We'll see if he gets the call up tomorrow. I think Cliff has left his team in. Maxwell, Gabriel, Ballard, Thornley, Garbett, Dougal, Virtue, Kai, and Ward, and Sims and Yates up top. But Coach Critchley has been given as an exclusive. It might play Bez Labala as a lone striker just for the bants. I'm sure that will go down well with many Blackpool fans come 2 o'clock tomorrow when the team's announced. Tim Fielding says Maxwell in goal, Gabriel, Ballard, Husband, and Garbett in the back, Dougal, Virtue in midfield, CJ and Mitchell on either flanks, and then Yates and Sims up top. Steve says CJ to start and then maybe take him off after 60 minutes. And I guess, Sean, I'll just come to you on this one, that for a player of when he's gone out with an injury, as he has done, it's important just to build those minutes up slowly. Played a little bit on Tuesday, give him some more minutes on Saturday, and slowly build him up to that 90-minute mark.
Yeah, obviously, I think he was pretty ineffectual against Crewe just because of the position he was playing more than because he's not fit or anything like that. But we saw his burst of pace, and I just think against a team like Wimbledon, then it's a perfect opportunity for him to get into the game and ease into it and build up his fitness. So yeah, as you say, it's ideal, really.
We'll move on to the final topic before we go into the score predictions. Players who have played for both teams. Someone thought Scott Taylor, the former Blackpool striker, played for Wimbledon, but in fact, he played, as Steve says correctly, for MK Dons instead. Gareth White has said Andy Nowland or Noland, I guess you pronounce it that way. Was he a central midfielder, if I'm right, or just before my time? I don't know. No? People are laughing. No? Before, this is where we need an older head on the show, really, to help us if he was before us. But we were obviously talking before. Ben Hennigan's one player, Tom, who has been at both clubs, did well at Blackpool under tough circumstance for me. Wasn't a huge fan of him. I thought he was very one-directional in terms of how he played, but a good servant for Blackpool, you have to say, and someone who always put his body on the line for the cause.
Yeah, he had his games, didn't he, where he was fantastic, but ultimately the level we want to be at, when you look at Ballard, Gretson, Marvs, etc., he's definitely no better than them, or certainly a lot worse, should I say. But, I've got good things to say about Penny. He played decent for us, and like you said, he's committed to the cause, and he's very dangerous from a set piece. So, only positive things to say about him, but he wouldn't be in my team now.
No, it wouldn't be. Sean, your thoughts on Hennigan? Obviously, Blackpool, maybe someone that Critchley looks to kind of target, maybe that's the word to use tomorrow, just due to his maybe pace, do you think? Might let him down?
Yeah, because obviously he was under Grayson, and if you look at the team he's playing for now, Wimbledon, it's similar sort of style of play where you've not got much responsibility apart from doing your one job that you've got there at the back, and that's what you needed for us. Obviously, we need a lot more responsibility on the ball, and I think he sort of dropped off after his loan extension. I'm not quite sure the reasons for that because we were still playing the same sort of football. But I think obviously if he'd have been playing this season, he'd have been quite out of his depth, really, if he did try to have to make him play out from the back with his feet. But yeah, he's someone that you should target. He seems to be quite constantly sort of coming out of position when he's trying to be disciplined. He'll end up coming out and making an erratic tackle, and sort of that's where they've been conceding from quite a few times. So if we can draw him out of defence, that's where we're going to get the goals, I think.
Richard's asked the question, Tom. Not sure with Jason Ewell. What are your thoughts? Did he play for both teams or not?
He most certainly played for the old Wimbledon.
We're going to let it count. Yeah.
One thing I was going to quickly say about Hennigan, if Yates is up to his usual box of tricks and he's happy to run at him, and Hamilton can maybe cut inside it and attack him, then they are in for a world of trouble tomorrow. Not just because we know what we can do, just because he's not good when someone's running at him, when we've seen that a couple of times. So we will have opportunities tomorrow, whether we take them or not.
Yeah, coming back to that Jason Ewell shout. Jason Ewell played for the old Wimbledon from 95 to 2001. 141 appearances, scoring 41 goals. Not a bad record before moving to fellow London club Charlton Athletic in 2001. I spent 5 years at the Valley before moving to Middlesbrough, then moving to Southampton, and then at Blackpool. 36 games, 4 goals. What game did he score the winner against? Bit of a quiz between you two. Who can get it first?
Newcastle. You said it before, yeah.
Well, you weren't meant to tell people. Before, but it was Newcastle. Scored the all-important goal, North Stand, wasn't it? A great occasion for Blackpool fans. But finally, before we move on, we've just hit the hour mark. Score predictions, please get them in as soon as possible. We'll try and read out the can. If you've already posted it, please repost it, because the chat does get rid of them after about 25, 30 minutes. So, Tom, I'll come to you first. Your score predictions for tomorrow's game?
Feel a lot more reserved than probably Sean's going to be, but I'm going to say 2-0.
2-0, and who's going to be your goal scorers for the Seasiders?
I think Yates will continue, and I'm going to go if Hamilton starts, he gets the opener.
Interesting. Gary said, get an early goal. I could see us winning 3 or 4-0 up the pool. Coach Critchley, narrow 6-0 win tomorrow. Beat the real Wimbledon tomorrow, and then the fake on Tuesday. Sean, I'll come to you. What are your score predictions and goal scorers, please?
I'm going to go with a conservative 4-0. Yates to score twice. We'll have CJ coming back and scoring, and we'll have a Kenny Dougal 45-yard effort just to take the mick at the end.
45-yard, wow.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know with these things. I'm going for a 2-0 Blackpool win. Yates to get on the score sheet, and I'm going to go for a defender. I think if Ballard starts, he's going to get bagged 2-2. So I'm going for Yates and Ballard. Gareth White says 2-1 to Blackpool. Alex Davis says 1-0 to Blackpool. Cliff also hit. He says draw. Gone for the quite reserved approach here. 1-0 with a great load of chances. Nick won just after half time, but failed to put the game to bed. Concede a scrappy late goal from a set piece equaliser, and then AVFT goes into meltdown. I'll grab my coat. Christian says 2-0 to Poole. Love it, Sean. You're getting compliments, and you've only been on the show 2 weeks.
I won't be afterwards when they bloody lose.
They keep flying in the comments, so it's great to see. Tim Fielding 3-0. Steve Hutchins says, "Come on, you Tangerine Wizards." Josh E says 3-1. Hennigan will score for them. Yates double, and CJ Hamilton getting a goal from the bench. Ray, he says 2-0 to the Seasiders. Richard 3-0 to Blackpool. Virtue, Yates, and Kai getting on the score sheet. Another 1-1 here. To be fair, and it's a popular result. I'm sure people will be putting that on tomorrow if they're betting. Please bet responsibly. At 1-1 could be loads of chances. Changes to the starting 11, and then a load more off the bench, and a bit of a struggle game. He feels don't really ram home the advantage in our matches. Finally, one here from Matt. He says a confident 3-0 win. Fingers crossed Blackpool can get another win, because it would be exciting and really put pressure on teams in and around us, especially above us, to try and get towards the playoff places. But we'll call it a night there. Obviously, we haven't got a guest. We've had to rejig the show a little bit, but a huge thanks to both of you. Sean, again, great to have you on the show, and hopefully, permanently now, which is a fantastic to get your signature on the dotted line. So we'll see you throughout the rest of the season, which is great, and hope you've enjoyed it again.
Yeah, it's been good, and it's nice to be going to Bloomfield Road rather than Highbury this time after this. Just
don't rub it into the fans. We go to games, they don't know. And Tom, obviously, it's been fantastic to have you back on the show, and we'll see you next. But fingers crossed we just get back to winning ways, don't we, tomorrow?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's hope for 3 points and an easy 606.
Fingers crossed to make John's life a little bit easier. But from all of us at the Seasiders podcast, a huge thank you for tuning in. A huge thank you for all your comments at the end of the show. It's really appreciated. Your comments help us throughout the hours producing content and giving your opinions on what we're talking about. So a big thumbs up. And if you're watching on YouTube, do hit that like button. It really does make a big difference on the YouTube algorithm. So hit it, hit the notification button, and also that subscribe button. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so that'd be fantastic. But from all of us, we'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your Friday night, and hope Blackpool can go at 3 points tomorrow. 1, 2, 3, up the pool.
Up the pool.